Welcome to the Cybele Health Podcast, where we share science-backed tools and expert insights to empower women's health and elevate their lives.
Welcome, everyone, to this new episode of Cybele Health Podcast. I'm very excited today because we have a special guest, which I've been waiting a lot for this episode, Natalia Bielczyk. Natalia Bielczyk is our guest today. She is a PhD in computational neuroscientist turned into career strategist. She created the Ontology of Value, an AI-powered aptitude assessment that helps professionals discover their competitive advantages. Natalie's focus on navigating career path in the AI era, working as an educator, researcher, and advisor to help individuals and teams optimize their professional potential. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for the invitation. I'm excited to be here. And PhD, like always, like I sometimes I miss academic life. So I'm glad that I can talk to you, a PhD in computer science today. So I'm really excited for this. And yeah, thank you so much again for the invitation.
Sure, yeah, you're welcome. So tell us a little bit about your journey, as a grad student in computational neuroscience, and how did you navigate that background stepping into AI and helping other people to follow your path?
Right. So actually, my story I think was quite organic. So I try to always I basically at some point I left my bubble, like academic bubble, that was like all the like textbook knowledge that I was absorbing for my whole like 20s and also teenage years. And at some point I started I basically shifted from textbook knowledge to street knowledge, and I started actually reacting to incoming problems, and that happened exactly uh, at the point when I finished my PhD contract. And that was the first time when I felt on my skin that I have to act in the real world, because for my whole life I was being told that PhD is a win-win. So you either develop this awesome career in industry, or you become a professor, a university professor, and both are great. So even if you decide to step out of academia, there will be a long list of long line of employers just lining up to hire you. And then I finished my contract and I was like, where are all these people? I don't see anybody lining up to hire me. And it turned out that I'm like in a very mm, weird position in the job market, because I'm an expat, I'm Polish, and I was living in the Netherlands at that point, and without knowing Dutch. And I had a technical background, so like to all employers, they were basically classifying me right away as a data scientist, like neuroscientist with knowledge in mathematics and computer science and programming. That's like automatically just transferable to data science, and that's it. And I was not being given any other options, even though I find myself a generalist, and I knew that for me programming itself is just a price to pay to do what I actually enjoy doing, which is building projects, teaching people, conceptualizing problems, and writing, and also presenting. So everything around programming is actually enjoyable, and the programming is the part that actually takes my energy. So I knew that if I cannot really follow that path, but I couldn't really find a new path for a long time. So I started analyzing the job market, and then I realized that this is in itself, it's not a science in traditional sense of the word, because it's not rocket science. There are no equations, there are no algorithms, but as a discipline of knowledge, is fascinating. So it's changing quickly, it's changing in front of our eyes. We are all in it, so we all have stakes into job market. So it's like you cannot not be emotional about it, because you're part of the system. It's like one ecosystem where we all like interact. And ever since the pandemic started, it became even more chaotic. And then after that, when ChatGPT came out, it was another black swan event, and it became even more dynamic, even more chaotic. And in the meantime, I started basically working on strategies to help professionals like myself. So first, I try to help other STEM PhDs to orient themselves in the job market. And then I realized that it's not only us, but also other knowledge workers that are quite confused right now. So in the end, I built a battery of aptitude tests that I'm now upgrading with a second layer, which is AI layer, to with a plan to create a self-navigation tool that will automatically help you reposition yourself in the job market, given uh, your um, your fit to different work environments, to different team roles, but also the information scraped from your CV and LinkedIn profile to basically also take your skills into account, and that will actually suggest right away which particular organizations and positions you're best suited for at this moment. So basically, that's what I've been doing for the past few years, and it was quite a ride. And especially after I started traveling to Silicon Valley, and I'm actually thinking of moving full time right now. It's really interesting because we are literally speaking just an hour after Donald Trump coming back to the office. So it's going to be a really that will be a ride for sure. But yeah, that was my journey so far. Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. Definitely things are gonna change no matter who is in the office with respect to the how AI is evolving the job market. Um, but on top of that, the policies around it for the policymakers in the office, uh, without any doubt, have will have impact. Um, so as an AI scientist, I know that there is bias in every AI that we create, and there are a lot of efforts around it, how we can minimize that bias. Um, and there are so many different reasons why they're biased, but coming even from the humans, we all have biases. But especially with the rise of AI and everybody's like being worried about their future job and work, given this bias that exists, how do you think women can prepare themselves with which strategies to be less impacted at their workplaces or getting their new jobs? What is your suggestion?
Yeah, very good question. So thank you for this question. So first of all, indeed, AI can code bias. There's actually a very good documentary by Netflix called "The Coded Bias." That's the title. That's exactly dedicated to this problem. So what AI systems do, they obviously learn on the previous data. So they profile what it means to be a perfect, and then plug in the name of the position, right? Perfect data engineer, perfect project manager. So for every position, they basically try to build what it means to be the optimal employee for given the previous employees on that position, and then that obviously creates the confirmation bias. So obviously, if 95% of former employees in a given position were a man, then obviously it will discriminate women applying. So this is a serious problem. And actually, I'm European, so I can say that in Europe we are a little bit ahead with regulation with respect to AI in recruitment. So the AI Act that was established in August last year, it already kind of regulates use of AI in recruitment. So there are four different levels of risk in applying AI were pointed out in that act, and recruitment is level 3 out of 4, so it's relatively risky, and it has a risk of discrimination, of bias, and of just giving different chances, right, to people based on their background and demographics. So in European Union, it's already the case that you have to have a human in the process. So it's not legal to go through put a application through the recruitment process through the ATS system without a human at least taking a look at it. That shouldn't happen. In the US, from what I know, it's a little bit like regulations a bit behind. But hopefully this can be also sorted out, because indeed, in this case, once you apply via the official like online recruitment procedure, you cannot really influence that what algorithms will be taken into account. So what I would say, you actually, as a woman, you have the most impact. First of all, choosing which way you apply. So choosing to actually look for positions via networking, via personal contact, via personal communications. And while you're already on the job, uh, try to position yourself in a ways that you are in positions where the assessment is quantitative, so that there's evidence that you can use to basically apply for promotions, to negotiate your salary, to negotiate any other perks, because there are certain positions, for instance, in sales, where your performance is clear, right? Because like the numbers stand for you. Or, for instance, if you work in a large consulting firm, then whichever projects you complete, and it's actually the client's assessment that is blind to how you look and who you are, that actually decides about how many points you get on your portfolio for that project. So basically, there are certain positions and roles where you can count on your own performance more than in other positions where you might be more dependent on your manager's opinion and how they assess you. And these types of positions are more prone to bias, right? But in general, I have to say that, well, women, like still in 2025, we don't have easy lives in professional world. Like there are still a lot to do, and especially when ever since AI started interfering with the job market, sometimes these biases and inequalities actually get even deeper than before.
Sure, yeah. So you touched on so many great points about applying for a job and then while you're at a job. But definitely networking and it streamlines the whole process of getting to an interview if you are referred from an internal, no matter what. So that's I just want to emphasize on that. Um, that through connections, lots of the companies have internal referring system that if an applicant is referred through an internal employee, it's automatically on top of the line. So definitely I encourage all of our audience to do that. um, but also while you're at work, I always say, the people that ask me that as they are interviewing you, you have to also interview your, uh, you know, your future employee too, because it's going to impact your life in so many levels. And you should know exactly what are you going to be expecting within next 2 years. You um, need to be, thinking about your promotion. So that's a good question to ask in the interview process from your hiring manager. I'm glad that you also brought it up. But uh, so what skills or qualifications do you think that specifically a woman, as you said, it's life is not fair for us. So we should always upskill. But what specific skills and qualification do you think that women should invest in developing to remain really competitive in this AI-shaped job market?
Right. This is also a great question. So actually, what we're observing today is that the first wave of AI software and AI solutions, it kind of jeopardized many of the traditionally, like the jobs traditionally occupied more like by females rather than males. Because when you think about all spectrum of knowledge, like all jobs, both knowledge jobs and like so-called blue collar, like physical jobs, then like on that spectrum, like the highest specialized jobs in tech were like up to this point more occupied by men than women, and the purely physical jobs were also occupied more by men than women, versus all these jobs like somewhere in the middle of the spectrum that were more like logistics, accountancy, like being an assistant, right? Or all these more logistic functions, where and like auxiliary roles to more like specialized roles, or like management of like project management, they were more occupied by women actually. And these were affected as like to a larger extent than physical jobs and very high specialized jobs. The first wave of AI software actually affected women more than men. That's actually bad news. But in the long run, actually, I think that tendency will like I think women eventually can actually position themselves very well in this market, and the reason is because actually I will tell you a little story. So,
Sure.
like in ancient Greece, when a nobleman, so a member of the higher class, that was not a peasant, not a physical worker, not a slave, but like a noble, like a son or daughter of a nobleman, was going to school. They were trained in so-called liberal arts. So these were the arts that were supposed to make you think independent and then go become a nobleman or noble lady and go to politics, go like build projects, like be in the upper class, right? So be like an intellectual elite of the country. And these were mathematics, astronomy, rhetorics. There were like seven main, music as well. So there were like seven main liberal arts that were being trained to those like noble kids from noble families. And actually, recently, a sci-fi author and philosopher named Devon Erickson started an online debate about the modern liberal arts, and he gave a very interesting list that I think I can sign myself under. I couldn't agree more. So he basically pointed out what he believes is something that we should teach our kids today. And I think also as active professionals in the job market, we should also train ourselves today. And these are, let me look at my cheat sheet, statistics, rhetorics, research, practical psychology, investment, and agency. And I think what women are really good at is at least few of these. So I think we are naturally good at practical psychology, which in this context means reading intentions and also understanding the true motives of others. And that's why we also like can train ourselves to be good negotiators as well, which is also very important. And rhetoric is also part of it. So rhetoric is also an art of persuading others. So with very like good communication and linguistic skills that women tend to have because we have better synergy between hemispheres. So we can actually train ourselves to be good at rhetorics and in practical psychology, and also agency. Agency is an art of uh, like making decisions, which course of action to pursue and pursuing it. So planning and executing actions. And I think this is something that women are also naturally good at. So like many of these modern liberal arts we can actually master. And that's actually a very good position to be in, because in the grand scheme of things, I think what AI is now doing to the job market is that it's basically now, after decades and decades of specialists actually being kind of promoted and preferred or in the job market, now is the time for jacks of all trades and for generalists. And generalists can actually outsource these specialized jobs to AI and AI agents. And I think if you have good communication skills and if you have good agenda, then as a generalist you can achieve a lot. And I think as women, we should like double down on our communication, rhetoric, and practical psychology and agency. Yeah.
Great. Really, it was lots of lessons for me to learn too. So you touched on psychology. That was interesting for me to learn, but I truly appreciate like planning and executing on plans is definitely something that women are good at it. And I think biologically, being the CEO of the family has a lot to do with that. Um, but how do you think that this the AI in shaping the new job market. How do you think it specifically impacts women in terms of their demand for the so-called lazy girl job?
Yeah, so actually, just referring to the previous question. So these like lazy girl jobs, like I'm sorry for the term, but this is like a, just a tongue-in-cheek term to just describe these like office jobs, simple office jobs. It's also like in some countries, like I'm Polish originally, so I can refer to Poland. So like it's kind of like, yeah, we just like to just smile at this, that like in low educated families, typically young men who just become adults, go to physical work, and the girls usually go study some of these like humanities that allow them to start working on these like low level office positions, and just they can stay there for a lifetime sometimes. So, and these like don't require much intellectual effort and also don't require much physical effort, so hence lazy, which is obviously just tongue in cheek, but obviously um no one is paid for nothing. So but the expression is to basically describe these relatively repeatable tedious tasks that are now easy to delegate to AI. That's why they're kind of being nuked from the job market relatively quickly. So yes, the kind of this professional class of professionals who are like now occupying these like lazy girl jobs are now actually in danger of losing jobs. And also that's also what numbers confirm. So the statistics, yeah, I track them like on a regular basis from all these like major agencies like Gallup and CBI reports, and others. Just indeed that office jobs that are indeed relatively like mono monotask jobs, or how to call it, yeah, like monotonous and rather repeatable, then they are actually being quickly replaced by AI. Yeah. But I guess it's also like your podcast is clearly for ambitious women and for ambitious professionals, and this is, I think, for people who really are willing to learn. These times are actually very good times, because the access to education and to software that is allowing you to leverage on your skills and domain knowledge is actually better than ever. So it's also it's and always the Jevons paradox, right? So every time we implement a new technology, there are even more needs for jobs related to that new technology. And indeed, also, like, of course, in certain areas of the market, such as lazy girl jobs, the number of positions might be dropping, but there are other opportunities opening up. And even in tech, in some areas, in the classic big tech, there might be some layoffs, but just next door, it's enough to just look into cybersecurity or climate tech or med tech, and then you can see that there are also, like, in many areas of those markets, actually there are even more positions than ever before. So it's really like, lazy girls should not be worried, because there will be always a new demand. It's just that you have to observe the market closely, and also explore your passions and see, if you also, if you see that the demand for your type of position is subsequently declining over since 2 years, then it's also like, it's not time for wishful thinking, right? If for like very logic reasons, let's say that the demand for accountants is dropping and dropping and dropping, then probably this trend is not going to be reversed, right? At some point, maybe it's good to start some soul searching and thinking, okay, how can I leverage on what I already know and like upskill and just recalibrate my career path a little bit.
Perfect.
You'll be okay.
Yeah. Sure. I just want to add that learning AI is like learning how to use PowerPoint or create presentation with PowerPoint or Keynote if you're a Mac user. No matter what, you have to learn it, and you can learn it too. You don't need to, somebody to teach you. Especially in 2025, there are so many free online courses that you can take at no cost, and learn. And again, right, if you see the signs that for whatever reason, the demand on what you are doing in the spectrum, lazy or not lazy, is dropping, it's time to see how AI can help you to get better at what you're doing, either to do something that you're passionate about or you have a problem that it can solve. And you can leverage the skills that you have learned in your career to upskill yourself, put yourself in a more competitive position. Um, while there are so many hesitations about raise of AI and impact on career, I'm still very optimistic that maybe in a short time, yes, we'll see some layoffs and people without job, but eventually it's going to rebound again and people are going to be more creative and companies are going to be more productive. But again, it's essential. It's really essential for us and for survival to learn these skills. But specifically for women, I'm curious to know your opinion on how do you think AI shapes the opportunities for women in the tech field, specifically like software development, data science, or leadership. Um, we are recording this session in January, and Mark Zuckerberg just released an announcement that a good percentage of their software engineers will be replaced by AI agents. So this is another news that just came out. How do you think, specifically a woman, should face this and what strategies they need to use?
Right. Um, yes, this is a hard question because indeed, the market is changing very quickly. Um, yeah, I think yeah, I heard this bomb, yeah, from Mark Zuckerberg, and so his prediction is that actually this year, 2025, we will already witness the majority of the software development, the software developers in Meta to be replaced by AI, which is quite catastrophic prediction. Well, when you think about it, it should not matter a man or a woman. But I think again, like coming back to the meritum, that if you see a trend, then um, perhaps it's a good moment to do some accountancy with yourself and just get a step back. So I have to say, like I did the same when I was still in academia. So like I was, when I was entering my PhD program, I was planning to become a professor in neuroscience, and I was obsessed about that. I didn't really think about the plan B. I was like, I would just go Arnold Schwarzenegger way, like no plan B. So like, I will be a professor, and no matter what. I even bought a house just next to the campus, so I had 8-minute walk door to door to my office. I was so manic about it. And then when I was finishing, I kind of realized that hey, the path of a researcher is not even close as enjoyable because of all the politics in academia as I thought initially, and it's only going to get worse from this point. And the statistics actually in the field are getting dreadful. Actually, in my field, in neuroscience, only 2% at that point. Only 2% of PhD graduates were becoming full professors. So, from that point, I had 2% chance that I would be actually doing the profession I was trained for. And I was like these the odds of getting there are really really like low, and the quality of life also because of this competition is also getting low, and the amount of stress and pressure is getting like over the roof. And do I really want to continue if I have so much skill in my hand and that I can repurpose for another mission, professional mission, and I can basically find so many other problems I can solve other than pursuing yet another project in neuroscience. And so I did that accountancy for myself, and then eventually I did what I always had in the back of my head, which was starting my own business, and that was probably the best decision of my life. So I just want to say, don't be afraid of changes, because it might be, also you just don't want to be in like high pressure, high competition environment where you can see your colleagues like being let go one after another, and then you can see that like the threshold for what it means to be a good employee is always getting up and up and up, and your nervous system is not taking it. And so there are, if at some point you wake up in the morning and you realize that maybe this is not worth it, like to stay in like a top tech company and basically just for the sake of being there. And there's so many other ways of utilizing your talent and your knowledge. You just have to take a step back, do a bit of self-discovery, do some job market research, and perhaps getting professional help, or perhaps just talking to your friends and family, and maybe taking a little break, even like one weekend in the green, somewhere outside the city, just to think. And perhaps you'll get great outcomes. And actually, I think you are a great example too, right? You spent 5 years in Apple, if I'm correct, right? And now you're on your own, pursuing your mission. And yeah, it's you're the best authority here. So, and actually, just referring to Apple once again. Actually, and also referring to what you said before, it's actually Apple is so famous for its UX, right? For its very friendly um, user experience, so that when you get a new iPhone, you don't really have to learn how to use it. You just it's so intuitive. You can use it without instruction. And I think it's the same with AI today. That like the chatbots are made in a way like when you interact with GPT, you naturally learn how to use it. You don't need an instruction. So that's also something that like if you still have hesitation if to apply AI to your like daily operations, you should just try it, and it will just come naturally. So that's just to refer to your previous to the previous question. So yes, I think um, at some point, like the job market is changing very quickly, and at some point, like we have to always just measure. We only have one nervous system, so we always have to measure if our current position is actually bringing us closer to happiness or not. Because if for any reason it becomes like too high stress situation, I believe that there's always another solution. So you just have to like be really honest with yourself, have some like really deep insight into yourself, some self-reflection, and make sure that your family supports you in your decisions, and try something else perhaps. Or perhaps it turns out that you are the ultimate only software developer that is left after all the layoffs, and you are now like the master of AI, and you basically all the other AI agents are your puppets, and you are actually the person to lead the department. That can also be the case. So it's just you just have to keep your mind open. Yeah.
Exactly. Um, Definitely, I agree 100% with everything that you said about trying different paths and having a plan B. So what has been serving you so far might not serve you, in the future. And there's no harm on giving like different paths a try. See, which one fits you better. See which one is more closer to your personality. We have some perspectives on ourselves, and then uh, via experiment, we discover even new dimensions of ourselves. That happened to me too, and it took me, I worked at Apple for about like almost close to 6 years, but really the last 2 years, I've been like actively thinking about the ideas of starting a business. And it was very scary too, because not only I was on a very demanding job, I was a mom with two little ones. Living in the Bay Area is also very stressful. Lots of different challenges that people who live here know what I'm talking about. But I think that women have those resilience needed to start and build something new out of nothing. So I really encourage all the women to at least give it a try, think about it, do it as a side hustle, on the side, no matter what's going to be the results. The learning side of it, it's like it's very great, and the people that you will meet. And even if you don't know where to start, like start going to those events that people who are in the, entrepreneurship, go to the startups events. There are lots of those. And, in the all across the globe, there are lots of those. There are some even online, so you don't even need to go. But it gives you some perspective on what to expect. So, but in terms of like going to event and making connections, and finding a way around those bias and flaws in the recruitment algorithms, or even when you want to go to a startup, you still need to recruit. You need to recruit people to come join your team, or if you're joining a team, you need the founders to recruit you. You need to recruit your users. You need to recruit and buy interest from the investors. So I think that's a skills that no matter where you are in the spectrum, you need to have. And that's really tied to your network. As they say, your network is your net worth. So as a woman, and this is a question that I've been asked a lot, that so many of the women, especially on the engineering side, I think that deep down they are a little bit still introvert. How do you think that we can approach to do this networking very effectively, the time and energy that we are investing, get the most out of it and create very meaningful professional connections?
Right. It's a very good question because also I think especially Bay Area is very diverse in terms of like the different types of networking. So there are conferences, there are hackathons, there are little interest groups that meet for breakfast, or they just meet online on WhatsApp groups and Slack channels, and there's so many different like modes in which you could be networking. I think what is important is that there are different like scales at which you can network. And uh, I will share my own mistake that I've made for a year. I was making for years, and how I fixed it. So um, so there's at least like three different levels. So there's this level of one-to-one interaction, like personal connections, like we have now, so that we can talk in person and you can focus on a conversation. And this is really good type of connection to have with your mentors, with someone who you admire, to basically learn from them directly. And obviously with your cordial friends, like I can definitely recommend keeping your friends, like even when you change career paths, just have like for your own like mental health, still keep some people in your life that are dear to you for decades or for a lifetime. But like still this is something you cannot scale, right? There's a limited number of people you can connect this way with, and so you have to be very picky about that. So like I personally, I just either talk to mentors or people I really like value and I have in my life for a long time. And other than that, there's two other levels. So there's this macro level where you, let's say, broadcast what you have to say to your social media network, or you go to a conference and you stand on stage and you talk to hundreds of people at a time. So this is also important to build your personal brand. You can achieve that, for instance, as being regular at your communications through LinkedIn, Instagram, and some other social media. Let's say do it once a week, but like pay attention to what you say so that it has some interesting content in it that is like mind provoking, like thought provoking, so that people can engage in your uh, post. And then it's good to also show yourself as an expert in some field while doing your public communications. But that's like two levels that are a bit obvious, but there is like one more level that is a bit less obvious, which is this mesoscale level. So a level of these little communities that are dedicated to specific topics. And I didn't spend any time online. I thought online communities are only for those who trade crypto coin, like meme coins, and for other scammy groups. Like I didn't really interact much, but I think that was a mistake, because actually you can gain a lot of value from these communities of, let's say, 100 to few hundred people that actually share common interest and exchange information online. So now I actually belong to multiple WhatsApp groups, multiple Slack channels that are dedicated to particular subjects, such as, let's say, there are actually groups for women and female founders in Bay Area. So these are actually very helpful for female founders to get funding and pitch and exchange information about the taxes, whatever else, right? Hire together, or like like everything that you need as a fresh entrepreneur. And there are also other groups, like groups about immigration that I belong to, groups about AI, generative AI, where people just share, drop the news, right? Because somehow you have to filter internet, right? When you go on X, there's such a avalanche of information. You have to somehow filter the interesting bits. So if you belong to those groups where people actually share their insights on the coolest news, then you have filtered information. So like I would say those groups are also extremely helpful because they share on specific subjects that are important for you. And also if you interact and help people in those groups, these contacts are like close enough that people actually feel compelled to also help you back. So it's really and you also if that's geographically close, like Bay Area in this case, and then you will also bump into these people in the meetups, and they will really uh welcome you as a friend, right? They treat you like if you're in the same group, they really like treat you like their bro, and they will greet you, and they really want to spend time with you. So it's much more than just some um, meaningless contacts online somewhere on a big social media platform. So it's much more close, much more cordial. So I would actually suggest to try to spend some time on each one of these levels. So not only talk one-on-one and not only go to conferences and big, outlets like LinkedIn, but also spend time in those little communities.
Definitely, yeah.
Yep.
And for our audience, if you are on a specific sector in terms of your profession and you're looking for those groups, comment your email address below with your specific domain, and we will send you some information about what groups exist within your closer geography, probably. But I wanted to, echo the two things that you mentioned. One is that try to network and talk to people, put yourself out there. One of the struggles that I had at the beginning was that I would go to the event, but I didn't know how to start the conversation. So I started the 2 minutes elevated pitch, as they call it in the startup, that I will talk about myself and I would talk about what I'm looking for in this event, even if it was just networking. And then I would repeat that and record myself and listen to myself up to the point where I felt comfortable with that. And I just remember that like as a recitation or as a, poem, whatever. And it what makes it so much easier for me. And then I had two questions in mind that everybody, no matter what that I ran to, I will ask these two questions. So I would start with this 2 minute introduction of myself. And then I would ask these two questions from everybody or, different categories. So this pre-planning helps you a lot on reducing that anxiety of, oh no, I'm going to this event. I don't know how to talk to people. People are talking to each other. I don't want to be the rude one, jumping into the discussion. But that definitely helped, that level of preparation. And then the other thing is that, yes, stay active, reach out to your community, but be very mindful on how do you spend your time and with whom, because the time is the ultimate resource that you have. And you should be very mindful about like people who are stepping into your circle. You're going to make sure that those are the people who are enabling you, not disabling you with their thoughts and, um, doubts. So speaking of AI tools and platforms, is there any specific one that you would recommend to our audience that's, has some benefits or specifically designed for women to improve their skills?
Good question. Yeah, so actually, I think that most AI platforms that are designed for professional development are quite agnostic, for gender agnostic, I would say. I'm just thinking because actually my favorite community for women was just closed. So
And
that was actually a AI driven community. Yeah, that happens. I would say it's okay. I really think that AI, if it's good at anything, it's just good at addressing you like gender neutral. So it's actually really, really, I would say, um, it's also like I have personally favorites for each application. So depending what your need is, just different like platforms for different purposes. So I'm sorry, but here I would just say, um,
no worries.
yeah, I I don't think I don't think I can give an advice that is gender specific here. Um, but
We'll go to the next question. That's all right. Yeah, that's all right. Um, from young women who just are stepping into this field, or they are considering maybe for their majors for the university, stepping into the tech or AI, but they are also at the same time very intimidated with these, how, everything is biased and, the barriers, like in general, that women face. What is your recommendation or advice, for young women?
Yeah, so actually, first of all, I'd say something that I say in general, like to men and women, that just knowledge of AI itself is not enough anymore. So it's actually good on to leverage your domain knowledge on AI. So if you have any like background, so for instance, to analyze the data, you have to very well understand the properties of the data. So how it was produced, in what process, maybe it was like some biological process. You have to understand very well each step of that process to be able to use AI to analyze the data, and only then you're actually a good expert. Um, so it's the same with everything. So let's say you use AI for analyzing financial markets. Well, you have to be a good economist and be able to also analyze how, let's say, Trump stepping into the office might, let's say, trigger some chain reactions in the economy and then in the markets that AI cannot really predict well. So it's really you have to always combine AI with certain domain knowledge taken from, let's say, real life, and then only with the two in hands um, you are a strong professional. So I would not rely on AI only. And for young women, I would say I think it's even more important now than ever to make personal connections and look for mentors. So if I was a young woman just starting my professional career right now, the first thing I would do would be just to find knowledgeable and mentors who are like open to mentoring and actually enjoy it in the field that I want to join. And that's actually a good mentor will also open the doors. So that's very very important. Um and yeah, personal connections and just maintaining these connections, I think, is important. So like I personally have a CRM, like not only for my company but also for myself. Like it's just like a repository of all people I've ever met, basically, and with like where they reside, where can I find them, what they are all about. And then if I go to a city, like I travel a lot, so if I go to a city, then I basically poke people, hey, I will be in Warsaw between this day and that day, maybe you'd like to join me, and maybe let's go for a coffee. And I basically it's an active effort to maintain those relations over the years. And people really, I think, overestimate how much you can gain in a year and underestimate how much you can gain over 10 years. If even if you meet someone once a year, but you meet consistently over 15 years time, then they treat you like a really good close friend, and they will help you when you need it. So I think like strategically allocating time in people and making sure that you maintain professional relations over time is really really important. Yes. What else can I say to young women? Actually, funny
Those are very good.
enough is yeah, funny enough, actually there was some research that showed that women with short hair actually are more likely to get VC funding than women with long hair. So yes, that right. Yeah, we were actually talking with friends in Bay Area, some befriended founders, and some of them were willing to cut their hair short just to get the funding. They were like, the hair will grow back, and others were like, but that's not the point, right? So
So from your neuroscience background, where do you see the connection? Is it because men are like making themselves like a woman making themselves like men, cutting their hair?
yeah, it's actually, well, it was, I think, not research from that angle, but like my first suspicion would be that it's like maybe visual, like sign that you just care about efficiency more than your looks, something like that. Maybe that would be just a connection to make. But obviously that's a stupid stereotype, right? It's just like long hair.
No, I was also got this feedback while I was working at Apple. So I like my feminine, energy, and I like to present myself like fully feminine. When I have time, and with two little kids, it's difficult, but when I have time, I'll try to have a light makeup or like work with my hair a little bit. I would dress up sometimes, like even wear dresses to go to work. And then one time I got this feedback from one of my fellow women engineer that, you know what, if you like dress up a lot, they think that you are a receptionist, not really the engineer or the mind. So that's why the girls try to really just wear like as a jeans and t-shirts and just, ponytail or even, cut their hair short just to prove that they have brain. So my first reaction was that I was in shock. I just laughed because I felt like this is so funny. But then I think that my perspective on that is that I don't care like what they think or their first initial reaction. The result of what you do is what will speaks to yourself, right? The outcome of what you can deliver. Maybe like in the first meeting or in the second one, they don't take you seriously. But I'm the living proof that if you really like to live with the feminine style, go for it and just stay strong. That's also one of the positive signs that shows that you have it all. You don't need to work on your look on a specific way or present yourself on a specific way just to prove a point. But it's not only VCs. We also got that same feedback on the corporate too, and I don't try to fight with it. And I mean, bias is everywhere. And then it comes from cultures of hundreds of years. There's this much that we can, it's good to raise awareness about that. But I think that at the end of the day, you just have to work yourself. And I think women have those resilience to not that be a stepping point for them. Well, thank you so much. I really love that conversation. But I have one last question. Can you tell us a little bit more about the ontology of value that you are creating? I did a little bit of ontology work back in grad school, but I'm really curious to know more about that. And how do you think that women engineers can use that concept?
Right. Great. Thank you for this question. Actually, one last thing I'd like to add when it comes to young women starting their careers. I think one thing is women are actually proven to be better at negotiations when they negotiate for somebody else. Like when they negotiate for someone else, they are like lionesses, right? Like they really like go after the goal and negotiate hard. But when they negotiate for themselves, they basically give up at first hurdle. So like this is also something maybe we should be learning earlier in our careers, because also like it's also well researched that women don't ask for promotions, don't ask for opportunities, don't push on it as much as men, not even close. So that's also one of the reasons why these disproportions and like discrepancies happen between genders in the job market. So I think we should be like learn how to be like kindly pushy and be like stand up for ourselves more and just learn it better. I think if I have a daughter that is a teenager right now, I would just send her to a negotiation class, honestly, because I think that whatever you do in life, whichever profession you choose, I think negotiation skills is a multiplier. You will just get more out of anything you do. So I think learning that soul skill is actually a big game changer in your career. So that's one. And about ontology of value, so what I was occupied with was trying to map out the um, the ways of decision making in daily professional life onto different working environments that we have available for knowledge workers. So what I mean by that is your way of making decisions, your mentality, your natural working style, the way you view the world, let's say what money is, or does luck exist, right? But also the way you just solve problems in daily life at work. It basically will determine whether you have a mind of that is more like resonates with the tribe of entrepreneurs or corporate people or consultants, etc. And the thing is, the human life is so short that like we don't have enough time to try it all, because to basically enter an environment and just see whether you can swim, and if you enjoy it and if that's your place to be, you need months or even years. So it's really hard to go like travel across the job market by trial, like just trying things by trial and error. And especially if you have no professional experience, if you're a student, it's extremely hard to just make your first step and just find that right environment. So I myself, I think I lost a decade of my life in academia without knowing that actually the tribe of entrepreneurs would be just more suitable for me mentally. And I basically wanted to spare others the same problem. So I created these aptitude tests so that you can take a test and it will give you a response in numbers, fitting you to a reference experimental groups we had in our studies. So it will basically show you in percentiles how well you fit to the group of entrepreneurs, to the group of corporate employees, to the group of academics, to the group of uh, workers of public sector, etc., etc. So you will get in numbers a full distribution of where you have competitive advantage in the job market and where you might not have it. So it's like a first zoom. Obviously, every organization is different and every role is different, but you have that first zoom into the job markets to basically tell you, uh, hot and cold, right? Which direction you might be inclined to go first. And I think it's really helpful, especially for people who are at the major decision point right now. So either they are starting their first jobs, or they actually feel the dead end at their current career. So they feel like this is not it, or they just came to the end of the ladder and they're like, how do I develop myself further? I just have to change something. Or they feel like they are suffocating. They feel like, oh, I'm not feeling good here. I really have to vent and just find something else where I can breathe fresh air, but I just don't know where. And so there are like, some research says that over 50% of all American employees are in that group. So they would like to change something. They just don't know where to start, which is a huge population. So this is basically a test that I wish I had. So at that point, when I was thinking what to do next after my PhD, there was nothing like it. And there were personality tests, there was Gallup test to find your strengths, but it wasn't telling me, okay, well, which type of organization do I even fit? How do I figure it out other than just trying and just possibly going through a range of disappointments, right? So that was the problem I decided to approach. And
Fascinating. Really fascinating. So can any individuals access that test and try it out just if they are curious? Now we that encourage a lot of our audience to go
right,
take
okay. So let me absolutely. So I'm just came up with an idea. Perhaps I can create access code so that 30
sounded really
people, yeah, 30. It cannot be unlimited, unfortunately, but let me give you 30 codes for your viewers, so that first 30 people who are willing to take the test can take the test.
that would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So just go ahead and below and then we will make that ready for you. Uh Nice. Went out of charge. Okay. Um, thank you so much for joining our podcast. It was full of information and learning for me, and I'm sure for our audience as well. Do you have any final words?
Well, I just, I think this podcast might also feel bittersweet because we were talking a lot about the unknowns in the job market. But I just want to say, um, don't be afraid, because at the end of the day, AI is creating a new wave of wealth. It will be maybe a bit turbulent times, because like when new technology comes, it always takes time to like re reassign those like new assets to the society so that we can all benefit. So Obviously, there will be a little bit of mess in the coming years, but eventually we'll be fine. All of us will be fine. It's just gonna be like the income per capita will skyrocket, and like we will all be better off than before. So please don't be scared. It's going to be interesting times for sure, but we all have like unprecedented up capabilities to develop ourselves as well. So uh, I'm optimistic about the future. Please also be optimistic, and I hope that yeah we said a few things to also cheer you up, and yeah, always like the future is bright.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening or watching. Please comment below with your questions. And if you want to take the test, send us, an email or comment below. The first 30% get the passcode. Um, Thank you so much again, Natalie, for joining us, and thank you for our audience for listening. Until next time, take care of yourself.